Are you still in the predicament? I know. Can you see the interesting phenomenon that we do things on these yoga mats? Sometimes we even come together in retreats. We come to be here with Gurdev. We knock out some poses in the morning. We do some chanting. We do a little pranayam. We get some inspiration. And around 10, 11 o'clock, what happened to all that? So experience is not the thing itself. Experience comes and goes, doesn't it? And if we're looking from going from the unreal to the real, let's get clear in the beginning. What are we talking about? I know that when we're in different emotional predicaments, and myself included, we tend to think somehow that that's real. Something has grabbed our attention, and we're worked up into some fine fit, and you say, oh my God, how will I make it through this day, right? And all the crisis, all the dramas, all the hardship, the divorce, all the ups and downs, look, we got here. And just a moment ago, it probably wasn't even plaguing you, didn't even think about it, it wasn't there. So, experience, things that we call experience, really wouldn't be real. It would be temporary, because for something to be real, it would have to be permanent, correct? If it was real, if it was true. Not only would it have to be permanent, it would have to be universal, wouldn't it? What would be real and true would, for people in Asia or people in Europe or people over at Jack's, it would have to be the same for everybody, correct? In order for it to be real. Now, I know that there's a New Age kind of jargon that goes around that says, well, I'm living my truth. And I hear what you say, but my truth, that has nothing to do with truth. That's just somebody trying to justify their opinion. So let's get rid of that right away, okay? Because we already know that it would have to be universal, and if my truth is different from your truth, it ain't truth at all, it's just opinions. Correct? So it has to be permanent, it has to be universal, and it has to be constant, correct? It can't be real this afternoon, or it can't be real now. It can't be real on your yoga mat, and then it's not real at 11 o'clock. All right? So we're kind of in an agreement that we've been doing this yoga stuff, and we're still finding ourselves in a predicament, even though we listen to all kinds of inspiration that this yoga stuff is meant to get you out of your predicament. Correct? And we listen, we're having a conversation, we take notes, we listen to recordings, we do poses, we do this, and we still find ourselves in the predicament. So something somewhere must be amiss. Correct? Is it constant? No, it's changing. It's one predicament after another. So that's a predicament. That's just one experience after another. So we've already said that experience isn't real. It doesn't mean it doesn't have an immediacy to it and an appropriate response. It doesn't have all this other kind of stuff. But we've made it real. And just in a few days or hours or minutes or weeks or breaths, it's gone. So it can't be real. It's apparent for a short period of time, and then it's gone. Correct?
What about the mind?
Wait. The mind, where is that? It thinks one thing 1 minute and something else the next minute. So it's a fickle.
Is the fickle maker real? The predicament maker real?
Well, you're going to have to answer that question for yourself. Because I could tell you one thing, and you'll just use it as informational / knowledge. You won't know it to be able to get out of a predicament when you find yourself in one. Because it'll be borrowed knowledge. Does that make sense? So what we're about here is direct perception. Or else it's just borrowed knowledge. And just so you don't think I'm kind of making this stuff up. All right. We'll go over here and, try not to read too much. It says here, you can have knowledge of all the properties of a thing, but without the actual experience of the thing itself, it's as good as no knowledge. Right? This is out of a scripture. Tripura Rasana. So this is not going to be a time about getting more knowledge, borrowed knowledge. Because the reason that we are finding ourselves continually in the predicament is we're trying to use something other than our own direct understanding. Okay? All right, good. So I'll go back to the page again. This will keep Nalin on his toes. I'm up and down. I'm back and forth. All right? So in the beginning here, this is what Bapaji is in. It said, though it is true that true realization is attained through actual practice, in the beginning, correct knowledge is needed. In the beginning, correct knowledge is needed. Now, I know some of you are familiar with the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and the second sutra that we hear over and over and over again in Yogasha Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Gurdev defines as yoga is the witnessing of modifications of mind, okay, which would be non-reactiveness, okay. But these things, he talks in his own way, and he kind of explains vrittis. But in the actual phrase, the word vritti, vritti is, and this again, a little borrowed knowledge that I collected, words that end in I in Sanskrit are types of energy. Shakti, Kundalini, Parvati, Shiva and Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati. These are energies. So a vritti is a type of energy. It's not a person. Okay? And it's a whirl. It's a whirl. It has a kind of a whirl to it. Right? So when you think that you are, somebody has said something that kind of disses you, or you can feel it, and you go, and it starts to move around. And then you start thinking of all the other things that this jerk said, and as a matter of fact, I've always thought they were kind of a jerk, and before you know it, you're sucked into a whirl. Correct? It happens the same thing with sensuality. You're out with your sweetie or whatever, you're having a little this, and and there's a couple, and there's a caress. Wait till we get, right? It's the same thing. It's an energetic whirl that just sucks you right in. Okay? So Patanjali says that there are 5 types of vrittis. There's correct knowledge, incorrect knowledge, imagination, sleep, and memory. And memory is just a combination of the other 4. So can you think of anything that doesn't fall inside those 5 boxes? Correct knowledge, incorrect knowledge, imagination, sleep, and memory. Probably not. If it comes to you a little later, you can say it because, he's pretty thorough. So right away you're saying, oh my God, a correct knowledge is a vritti? So think about it when you're with somebody and you're correct. We can Google this, right? we can Google it, right? Okay, you got that? Well, does that sound like, witnessing the modifications of mind? No, that sounds like you're in the jackpot, right? You're in the whirl, okay? But, better we throw out incorrect knowledge and imagination before we start, trying to throw out correct knowledge, all right? Because that's what Bapaji said. In the beginning, correct knowledge is needed. So if you look a little deeper, correct knowledge is described as direct perception, inference, where there's smoke, there's fire, and scriptural authority, of which the guru's word is considered to be a part, okay, an aspect of scriptural authority. Direct perception, inference, and scriptural authority. So what we're about tonight is correct knowledge. That's what we need in the beginning. That's why we're still in the bushes. Even though Gurudev has given us a tremendous amount of knowledge, somehow we haven't taken that in such a way that we're able to use it. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So I thought we would probably be, we talked about this thing called truth or, or real, and it has a parameter to it. It has to be universal, has to be constant, right? And it has to be consistent, ever present, timeless, yes? All right. So the next piece that we want to try to get a common agreement on so that we can begin to utilize some of these concepts, these things that have been given to us by some of the ancients to help us save time in the bushes, okay, so we can get out of the bushes. Why is yoga described as union and not flexibility? You've been with me before. You get to say it. Correct. You have a dis-ease. You're not at ease. You have a dis-ease. You have a virus that makes you think that you are separate from, you're certainly separate from me. Aren't you thinking that might be a good thing? I'm not that guy, right? You're separate from the person next to you, correct? You're separate from all of existence, man against nature, right? And you're even somehow, you got involved in yoga because you somehow feel uncomfortable, you feel separate from yourself. Correct? So you got a bad case of the separations. I got a bad case of vrittis over you, right? That's what you got. It's incorrect knowledge. But you think it's correct knowledge because that's the way it looks. That's the way it thinks. That's the way it feels. We gather up information from the senses, and at the body-mind level, that probably is, and we're going to look at this during this evening, and it usually adds up that way. But that's the illusion. That's Maya oftentimes is interpreted as making the impossible look possible. It's absolutely impossible for you to be separate from the self, from the cause, the source. It's absolutely impossible. But gee, you make up everything you can to, don't we? Incorrect knowledge. And that's what Gurudev said, you're not going to get a better job with all this stuff. You're just going to get out of the self-created suffering. That in of itself would be worth the price of admission, right? Okay. So the reason that you're involved in yoga is because yoga is the medicine to alleviate the virus, the disease, the incorrect knowledge of your separateness. Yoga is not the thing itself. If you didn't think you were separate, you don't need to be doing all that kind. You can just dance through life and enjoy yourself. Isn't that what you want to do? But you can't because you feel separate. Wait, something's wrong. What's wrong with you? Well, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me now that you mention it, but what? Do you see something? Right? Okay. All right, we got a question already?
Yeah, I have a question. So yoga is really popular in this country because people think they want to get flexible, but what if it's popular because of all the separation and alienation from ourselves and each other? So what difference does it make if it achieves the end result?
Well, I'm going to ask you to keep this in the personal. Okay. We don't care about the rest of everybody. Okay? Existence has them all. All of that's being taken care of. We're only concerned about that right in there. Yes? Okay, that'll make it a lot easier for us through our time together. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody okay? So in order for something to be real, or true. It needs to be universal, timeless, and consistent, and it's the same for everybody, right? Got that? And this whole notion of yoga is not necessarily the thing itself, even though sometimes folks try to make it that way. Yoga is the medicine, and I may be mistaken on this, but someone had said once that I listened to, that medicine and meditation come from the same root, okay? So meditation, as you see, it kind of goes down, meditation, samadhi, that kind of stuff, is the solution, is the medicine to alleviate your incorrect knowledge about you being separate from all of existence, from each other, and from yourself. All right? So we got that. All right. So the next piece that we want to stack up so that we have common agreements and there's no mysteries to things is because words are abstract symbols for things, correct? If I say the word rose, you're probably seeing a stem with some thorns, a few green leaves, and a red something on top, yes? Well, I'm thinking about a short, red-haired artist woman that I know by the name of Rose. So we don't have any commonality to things, right? So obviously when I say toaster, you've got a little thing, you push it, toast comes up, right? You got a picture, toaster, right? Unless you have an old style, what old it is, toaster. And if I say car, you probably, you got here one, some tires and a seat, steering wheel, it goes from one place, right? So toaster, car, consciousness. What do you got? Everybody goes on and on and on and on and on about consciousness, but we have absolutely no idea what somebody's talking about. So you can know all the properties of a thing, right? We've heard how many lectures about consciousness? Books. You can know all the properties of a thing, but if you don't know the thing itself, it's as good as no knowledge. That's why you admitted that you're still, me too, we're still in the predicament. Correct? So what we have to do is expose the thing itself in the light of correct knowledge, which is what? Direct perception, inference, or scriptural authority. Okay? So, here we go. You ready for this? And anybody that's watching this on the internet, if you don't do this, you're going to have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. You're going to have an idea, but you're not going to know the thing itself. So you have to do this along with us. If you don't do that, you might as well just shut it off right now. It'll just be, I don't know if it's been so far, it'll just be entertainment. Okay? So we're going to forge ahead here with seeing if we can expose through direct perception, consciousness. All right? And this shouldn't be really tough. People, aren't you conscious right now? Aren't you conscious? This is not a trick question. Even if you said, no, I'm not conscious, you would have to be conscious to know you're not conscious. So this is not, I'm not here to trick you. This is here to reveal something about yourself to yourself. Okay? All right. So if any time during this 6-7 minute experiment, you need to squiggle, wiggle, or scratch your nose, feel completely free to squiggle, wiggle, or scratch your nose, and then as soon as possible, come back to these very, very simple instructions. Okay? So if you'd be so kind as to adjust your position in such a way that you can rest your hands lightly on your knees or thighs, palms up. If you ain't doing this at home, you're not going to know what we're doing. Palms up. Gently close your eyes. And without struggle and without strain, simply begin to lengthen the depth of your inhalations and exhalations just slightly. Relax your abdomen. Relax your shoulders. And begin to allow all expression to fade from your face. And to captivate your mental capacities, visualize, imagine that you have a small opening in the center of your abdomen and you're actually able to breathe in and out through the center of the abdomen. All of your attention focused, center of the abdomen. If this visualization is a little difficult for you, you can simply touch yourself in the center of the abdomen and allow that tactile sensation to orient your attention. Once you've established that tactile sensation, you can allow the hand to return to the knee or thigh, and then as best you can, you cannot do anything wrong. As best you can, visualize, imagine that you have a small opening in the center of the abdomen and you're actually able to breathe in and out through the center of the abdomen. All of your attention focused, center of the abdomen. Notice any subtle sensations that may be present around the center of the abdomen and how soft your breath is as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen. Allow the breath to rise up in your torso and exit a small opening in the center of the chest. So the breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the abdomen, you're sensing your attention, the sensation rise up in the torso, and your breath is exiting a small opening in the center of the chest. Again, notice any subtle sensations around the center of the abdomen, the center of the chest, and let your ears be completely captivated by the soft sound of your own breath as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen, close off that opening. Allow your attention, the sensation, the energy to rise up in your torso. And now as though you could simply breathe in and out through the center of the chest. All of your attention focused, center of the chest. Notice any subtle sensations that may have appeared around the center of the chest. And again, how soft your breath is. Gently flowing effortlessly in and out. As you draw your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest. Split the breath in two and let it radiate down the arms. And exit small openings, one in the palm of each hand. So the breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the chest, you're splitting the breath in two. It's streaming down the arms with your attention, and it's exiting small openings, one in the palm of each hand. Once again, notice any subtle sensations around the center of the chest, the arms, the palms, and the effortless softness, that rhythmic sound of your own breath, effortlessly flowing in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest, close off that opening. Allow the energy and your attention to stream down the arms, first pooling in the palms. And now as though you could simply breathe in and out through the palms of the hands. All of your attention focused, palms of the hands. And maintaining this concentration and focus in the palms of the hands, breath flowing in and out through the small openings. Very slowly, almost imperceptibly slow. Begin to allow the hands and the forearms to slowly lift up off the knees or thighs. Keep breathing in and out through the palms of the hands. And as the palms begin to lift up, rotate the forearms and the palms in such a way that your palms begin to face each other. And when you find your palms facing each other without allowing the palms to touch, begin to bring the palms towards one another until you feel a slight pressure between the palms. And when you first touch that energetic edge, see if you can ever so gently pull the palms apart, just 1/8 of an inch. And now actually check this out for yourself by pressing and pulling the palms ever so slightly apart and together, right on that recognizable, energetic edge. Just 1/8 of an inch. And now that you feel this in and out pressure left and right, see if you can find a top and a bottom to this energetic sensation between the palms. Does it have a shape? Can you feel your way around it? Keep that slight back and forth motion to check out being right on that energetic edge. And now slowly, very slowly, allow the hands to float back down into your lap, onto your knees or thighs. And notice the content of your mind. Notice the rhythm of your breath. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to gently open your eyes. And as you do, leave a portion of yourself anchored in this recognizable stillness as you bring a portion of yourself back into the room as you gently begin to open your eyes. As you gently begin to open your eyes, can you see from your own experience you really didn't want to open your eyes? Can you see that? Yes? No? Yes? Can you recognize the benefit of just taking 6 minutes in your day that you would change from whatever hubbub and to-do you were involved in to be this? Can you see that? Remember, direct perception, inference, and script. This is direct perception. Can you see the benefit? Yes? Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to have Nalin, challenge his video skills. I think I told this story once. I was doing something at one of the Hindu temples with Gurudev, and a lot of people there, and some fellow came up to the stage, and he put a piece of tape there, and he put a piece of tape there, and I'm going, what is that? He says, do not go outside of that tape. Yeah, well, the first thing I did, you're right, okay. All right, and I'm back, okay. All right, so anybody feel a little something between the palms? Yes? Okay. It's okay if you didn't. This is a knack. This is a knack. Do you know what a knack is? This is important. This is not just a joke. Do you know what a knack is? I use the same. Thank you, Christine. When a person asks a question in front, if you keep quiet long enough, you know they're going to tell you the answer, right? Maybe not in that. What is it? Common teaching thing. Maybe they won't tell you the answer, but I'm going to tell you a knack. Remember when you were trying to learn to ride a bicycle? Remember that? And you were pretty good. You could go around corners. You could slam on brakes. That kind of stuff. And then you had training wheels. And then somebody took the training wheels off, and what happened? Yeah, it didn't go so good, did it? You were falling down, you ran into things, you skinned your knees, you banged things up, and you probably even said, I'll never get this. How do people do that? Maybe your dad tried to help you or your mom. And then one day, the very, 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 very first time you got up, you could never, ever, ever, ever unknow that again. That's why when you went out there the next day, you didn't fall down 10,000 times, did you? Right? Correct? You couldn't ride with no hands, right? That takes practice. What is it? Although it is true that true realization is attained through actual practice, okay? Not just repetition, but we'll get to that later, okay? Think about what you're doing in this yoga thing. In the back of your mind, there's some notion that you will have an experience that's so profound that you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to unknow it, correct? Isn't it? Oh, I could just get some samadhi. Right? But samadhis come and go. So it can't be real, correct? Is this heresy? If you go in and out of samadhi, what is the point? We had someone here with us, in our lineage, wonderful, great, tremendous sadhana and experiences. And he said, and he would come out of his sadhana room with his samadhis, whatever, and he said he would just go into the living room where someone would, he said that was the most dangerous a time. Why would that be? Because it's not constant. It's not universal. It's not timeless. Correct? But we are still looking for an experience that's so profound that you will never, ever, 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 ever be able to unknow that about yourself. So it's not about experience, it's about knowing. Correct? And once you have the correct knowledge, then you can show the mind what you wanted to be familiar with, show the mind what you wanted to be familiar with, show the mind what you wanted to be familiar with. Okay? So when I said to you, notice the rhythm of your breath, was anybody going, no, this is stupid. I've been with this guy a couple of times. I know this. I can go out and have some tea. Anybody breathing like that? Okay. Right. How was your breath? Steady, slow, rhythmic. Those are usually things that you hear. Yes, that's kind of add up, right? How was your breath there at home, right? You weren't, get this over with, okay, right? Well, it doesn't take any Zen master to recognize there's a specific breathing pattern for every physical, mental, emotional, and contemplative state, up to and including the breathless state of samadhi. We don't have to worry about that. All right? There's a specific breathing pattern for every physical, mental, emotional, and contemplative state. So if you want to change your physical, mental, emotional, contemplative state, what do you change? Now, how many of you, when you get into the predicament, how many of you change your breath? Does it work? Yeah. Okay. Anybody who doesn't, when you get into predicament and you change your breath, anybody say it doesn't work? Do you see, we don't use the knowledge that we have. So there's another issue. Not even that we have the correct knowledge. We don't use the knowledge that we have, right? But we're still looking for that experience that once I see it, I could never, ever, 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 ever unknow that about myself again. So breath was slow and steady. Oh, that's good. And you know now that you can in 6 minutes. But this is a knack. So the whole point of us practicing this or going through this again is so that when you go into the jackpot at the dinner table with the family, you don't go... Oh, I'm back, dear. Where were we? That's useless. You want to go there with just one breath. Because you know there's a specific breathing pattern for every physical, mental, emotional, and contemplative state. And that state of ease that you found yourself in is not separate from the breathing pattern that you recognized. Those are not two things. Okay? That's clear? Let's go a little bit farther here. When I said, notice the content of your mind, did anybody have any thoughts like, did I lock the car? Where's my purse? Oh, dear, I got somebody in my room that snores. Oh, dear, what am I going to do about that? Anybody have any thoughts? Go ahead. Yes, tell me what happened. When I said, notice the content of your mind, what happened, Kristen?
I was thinking about my hands.
Okay, can I ask you a question about that? All right, this is for people that are watching at home because, yeah, we have somebody who said they had a thought. All right, so this is for you too. So when I said, notice the content of your mind, I'm thinking about my hands. Or, notice the content of your mind, I'm thinking about my hands. Was it more like number one or number two? So you can see that there was just even if it was a teens, there was a suspension there, correct? All I want you to keep your eye on is on that suspension. I know minds change endlessly. I mean, when you get up in the morning, do you ever start to say to yourself, I think I'm going to start thinking some crappy thoughts? No, it's just the button goes on. You're awake, the button goes on, and there they are, right? So all I want you to watch is that little suspension between when you notice the content of your mind. That's all I want you to notice, okay? So if I'm hearing everybody correctly, there was no thoughts. When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody see any things? Tell me what happened.
I saw like different light colors.
Oh, lights, those are always cool. Yeah, right. Can I ask you a question about that? So when I said notice the content of your mind, oh, wow, lights, this is way cool. Or was it notice the content of your mind? Oh, there's some lights and colors and things. Was it more like number one or number two? So you also can see that there was a brief suspension between what you heard and there was a recognizable suspension that you, whoever that is, can recognize, all right? We'll get to that in a minute, all right? So if I'm hearing everybody honestly, there was no thoughts and there were no things. When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody know your age? That's a silly question, right? You told me you weren't thinking, so probably no. Anybody know your age when I said notice the content of your mind? No? Remember, we're still working with direct perception to change your beliefs about yourself that you are somehow separate from everything. So there was no thoughts, no things, no age. Now, when I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody know you were male or female? Another kind of silly question, right? Anybody? No? Yes? No? Okay, so it was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender. Now go back into the rearview mirror of experience and look, and when I said notice the content of your mind, can you find your body? Anybody? No? If I'm hearing you honestly, Kristen, you're okay? Okay. Did you see your body in it? Did you find your body? No? Yes? Okay, all right. I'm just asking you to look. Don't believe a thing I say. If you can't see this for yourself, this is direct perception. Just throw my stuff out the window. It's going to be useless. This is for you to see it for yourself. So there was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender, no body. Now, I know something is reporting this to you, or else how would you know? Correct? Whatever is reporting this to you, can you find any edges to it? Did it just stop at the edge of your head? The camera range? Did it stop at the walls? The street, the lake? Does it have any edges? Okay, if I'm hearing you honestly, then there was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender, no body, no edges. And the last question is, when I said notice the content of your mind, can you find you? Can you find you? Anybody? So if I'm hearing you honestly, there's no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender, no body, no edges, and no you. And you've been looking for an experience that's so profound that you could never, ever, 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 ever unknow that about yourself again. How big more of an experience do you want to have than the direct perception that you are an unlimited, unmodified, clear awareness? Can you feel the momentum? You don't want to believe that about yourself, right? You want to go back over, I got my history. Well, where was your history just a moment ago? Where's all the things that crank you over? Living here with a lot of people, it gets a little tight. Where's all the things that really, right? Where were those? Where's your health issues? Where's your financial issues? Where's your history? That's a whole vritty box in itself, right? How much more of a profound experience of direct perception do you want to have? Because experience is not the thing itself. This has been a direct perception, but you now have to get in there and investigate it. You have to contemplate it. You have to wrestle with it. You have to cogitate on it. You have to dig out every time another thought comes up that says, no, that ain't right. You got to look in to see that. Who's saying that? You now know about yourself through direct perception when somebody says, toaster, car, consciousness. Yes? The ball is in your court. But we've somehow set up some kind of learning experience where you think the ball is in that court. You keep wanting the direct perception, the direct experience, and think it's going to come from there. It can't. He's told you that. And now you've seen it for yourself. What are you going to do about it? Your sadhana is not just spiritual practice. Sadhana is for putting an end to obstacles. And you know what the obstacles are? I believe that I'm my body. You couldn't find your body. I believe I'm my mind. You couldn't find, there was no thoughts. You believe you're male or female. You couldn't find your gender. I got problems like you wouldn't believe. You couldn't find them. Now your sadhana, when it says, is for putting an end to obstacles, you know exactly what the obstacles are. It's anything other than no thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no edges, no you. And then if I asked you, well, whatever that was that's reporting this to you, how big is it? How much does it weigh? Does it have any color? Where is it located? So not only is it no thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no edges, no you, no mass, no weight, no size, no color, and no location. So every time somebody's been talking about consciousness and you said, well, that sounds wonderful, but where is it and how come I can't see it? It's because there's no you and it has no location. It has no size, no shape, no color, no mass, no density. But you recognized it, didn't you? Although it is true that true recognition, realization is attained through, you got to show the mind what you want it to be familiar with. Show the mind what you want it to be familiar. Do you want it to be familiar with this, or do you want it to be, I know how God is, I got problems. Yeah. Experience is meant to modify incorrect knowledge. That knowledge that you now have about yourself is prior to any mentalization. All right, so this has to be universal, right? Now, do you think that what you saw about yourself, and the thoughts and things, the ways, the body, you, was any different for anybody else in the room? How about, do you think it would be any different from the people over at Jackson? In case you don't know, that's a bar across the street. Do you think there are no thoughts, no things, no ways, no body, no gender, no you, no mass, no weight, no size, no color, no location? Do you think it's any different? But it's got to be in there. It's got to be in there, correct? So through inference, remember, direct perception, inference, if it's in you, and there was no content, it was just, there was no them, there was no you, it must include them, correct? Okay. How about you're at the supermarket and you're in the 10 items or less aisle. There's somebody with at least 15, 20 items. It says cash only. They're trying to write a check. They drop their purse. And you want to get home to see the news hour, and you're about ready to bulldoze them right out of the aisle, right? Is there no thoughts, no things, no ways of buying or generous any different than yours? Yes, because you now know it's in you, and everything else is simply temporary. So we're looking for truth. We're looking for the real. And if you listen closely, It's in between every word I say. It's the field in which everything else arises and disappears. Now, let's really stretch some minds. So it's same for everybody here, same for people at Jack, same for 10 Hours Lane. How about a religious fundamentalist of any stripe that's thinking about blowing up innocent women and children? Is there no thoughts, no things, no ways, no body, no gender, no edges, no you any different than yours? How could it be? This whole fracas, the madness in the world, comes from people, we don't know who we are. Correct. Your sadhana is to remove those obstacles. So what we've just said is that we have seen something that's universal. So it matches up with our understanding, our definition of truth, of real. Everything else is temporary, and it comes and goes in that spacious awareness, correct? Your worries, your concerns, your ups, your downs, your schedule, your dog, your cat, all that stuff just arises in there, correct? You can never, ever unknow this about yourself. The issue is whether you begin to you've now become aware of a fact. Now you have to get in there and constantly dig out that which is not in alignment with it. But do you see how sloppy we get and we kind of drift back over into the ordinary and the familiar? It has a huge momentum. That's why we are doing sadhana, because we understand that we're still caught up in a momentum, but we're using it not to get something that we are not. We are using it to put an end to the obstacles so that we can live in who we are. Does that make sense?
Yes, break all those habits.
You can even keep your habits. Just look into them deeply enough till you see that which is behind it. You have to see the hollowness of things. These people have tried to renounce all kinds of actions, and we read in the newspapers that many people get tangled up in just all kinds of mishigas, right? Which is Yiddish for craziness in the head, right? We're not saying that just go ahead and be stupid, but look into what you're doing with what you've just seen about yourself. And that will hold you in good stead. There's a few other things that need to be refined, but that's good, okay? Go ahead.
When Kristen said she saw her hands, are you saying that the gap, the space between the word, the space between that time you asked, noticed the contents of your mind, and the time that she noticed her hands, that gap is what we're talking about? That space there that had nothing?
No. We're not talking about the physical space.
Not the physical, I'm talking about the gap in the time.
Right. You're looking for something that's timeless. It takes time for something to come in your ear, to be registered in your brain, and then it happen. It takes time. But as Gurudev said, time and mind are the same. There's something in which time and mind arise and dissipate. That's what we're interested in, because that which time and mind arise in is universal and constant, usually referred to as I. Everybody in the world would say, I'm an Eskimo, I'm Indian, I'm Chinese, what we're highlighting here is that which is prior to Chinese religion, nationality, religion. It's pure I-ness, what Gurudev refers to as being.
So her thought of the hands, because she did have a thought that you're saying because it wasn't fast, it was slowed down. There
was a spaciousness that she didn't recognize. And my role in the front was to reveal that small space. Because the next step is we have to find out if it's possible to live in that recognition. It's nice when we're sitting on cushions and fiddle farting around, right? Parlor tricks, whatever it is. But you got to go to work. You got to pay some bills. You got to get all kinds of things done. All right? Does that make sense? So we have to try to still utilize the formula that we've been using. We want correct knowledge. And I'm saying that it is possible to live in that interior environment while still being engaged in action. And that's why the tantric edge, the pranic edge, directly verifies that. Prana does it, not you, but that's a little bit down the road. So what we want to do next is use the second key. And the second key is, we're going back to the slow motion prana exercise, but this time I'm going to try and disturb you. Your sadhana, putting an end to obstacles, your sadhana is to stay connected to what you've just recognized about yourself. No thoughts or things, no ways, no body, no gender, no edges, you. No matter what. That's your role in life, but nobody's really told you that. They told you get a job, get a career, get some money, right? Well, I'm telling you, your job is to stay. If you want to end self-created suffering, God knows it looks like some of us enjoy suffering. We see these, but so that's another issue, right? If you want to end that, your sadhana is to stay connected, stay in anchored in no thoughts and things and ways of body, gender, ways, but you, no matter what. All right, so you got your instructions?
Chandrakant?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you saying that prana essentially is that field of unmodified awareness?
No. You can see you could see in this. You could say Shiva and Shakti or Krishna and Radha. Krishna is the unmodified field of awareness, and prana is a part of Shakti, a part of the manifestation.
Okay, so
Prana is not the thing itself.
okay, so it's
kind of the union of that polarity. So it's the union of, like, for instance, in the sky, there's the space and then there's the clouds. So the space would be Krishna, would be consciousness, and then the clouds would be energy. So it's a witnessing both of those together as one. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of space that we're in when we're doing this. Like, is it the awareness of all of that, or are we the sky itself? Are we the space
Okay,
between the
can you
worlds?
feel? You can almost feel it's reaching out, isn't it? To try and get a grip on this.
Yeah.
But it has no edges.
Um,
It has no location. It has no size, no shape, no color, no thought. But you can recognize it. Correct? So what I said earlier was, if there's only one thing, consciousness, this mind arises in consciousness. And the mind is the apparatus of consciousness which allows it to see things. But you've recognized something that's not a thing. So your mind will not be able to grasp it. But you can remain anchored as it because you are never, ever, ever anything other than it. That was pretty good. Okay. All right, so here we are. We're at round two. All right. So once again, if you would be so kind, you can set your books and things aside, and you're resting your hands lightly on your knees or thighs. And remember, if you're not doing this, watching this video, you'll have absolutely no idea what we're talking about when we come to that portion of it, okay? Gently close your eyes. And once again, without struggle and without strain, simply begin to lengthen the depth of your inhalations and exhalations just slightly. Relax your abdomen. Relax your shoulders. And begin to allow all expression to fade from your face. And once again, to captivate your mental capacities, visualize, imagine that you have a small opening in the center of your abdomen, and that you're actually able to breathe in and out through the center of the abdomen. All of your attention focused. center of the abdomen. If this visualization is a little difficult for you, you can again touch yourself in the center of the abdomen. Allow that tactile sensation to orient your attention. Once you've established that tactile sensation, you can allow the hand to return to the knee or thigh, and then as best you can, you cannot do anything wrong. As best you can, visualize, imagine that you're actually able to breathe in and out through a small opening in the center of the abdomen. Notice any subtle sensations that may be present around the center of the abdomen, and how soft your breath is, gently flowing in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen, allow the breath to rise up in your torso, and exit a small opening in the center of the chest. So the breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the abdomen, you're sensing your attention, sensations rise up in the torso, and breath exiting a small opening in the center of the chest. Notice any subtle sensations around the center of the abdomen, the center of the chest, and let your ears be completely captivated by the soft sound of your own breath as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen, close off that opening, allow your attention, the sensation, the energy to rise up in your torso. And now as though you could simply breathe in and out through the center of the chest. All of your attention focused, center of the chest. Notice any subtle sensations around the center of the chest. And again, the effortless sound of your own breath, gently flowing in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest. Hey! Split the breath in two and let it radiate down the arms. And exit small openings, one in the palm of each hand. Breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the chest, you're sensing it stream down the arms. It's exiting small openings, one in the palm of each hand. Notice any subtle sensations that may be present. Center of the chest, the arms, palms, and again, how soft your breath is, gently flowing in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest, close off that opening. Allow the energy to stream down the arms, first pooling in the palms, and then exiting the small openings, and maintaining this focus and concentration, breathing in and out through the palms of the hands. Slowly, very slowly, begin to allow the hands to lift up off the knees or thighs, almost imperceptibly slow, and begin to rotate the forearms and the palms so that the palms are facing one another. And without allowing the palms to touch, bring the palms towards one another until you feel a slight pressure. And then right on that head, you can press and pull just a little bit back and forth right on that energetic head. I'm pressing and pulling and pressing and pulling. Right on that energetic edge. Check it out for yourself. And slowly, very slowly, begin to allow the hands to float back down into the lap, onto your knees or thighs. And once again, notice the content of your mind. Notice the rhythm of your breath. in just a moment. I'm going to ask you to gently open your eyes, and as you do, leave a portion of yourself anchored in this recognizable stillness as you bring a portion of yourself back into the room, as you gently begin to open your eyes. As you gently begin to open your eyes. So how'd you do? This is fun, right? We're having a good time here. And, we don't want to get too serious. I think Rajani said that when people get involved with this spiritual stuff, the first thing they do is they get serious. He said seriousness is the only spiritual crime. However, it's the only crime where the crime is its own punishment. So lighten up. How'd you do? What happened when it was, hey? What happened? What? What happened? So, okay, anybody else? Right? No? Yes? And then what happened? Oh, look at that. My God. Something from the outside come in, whacked you out. You got upset. And then what did you do? You're putting an end to the madness by learning how to stay in touch with that which you've recognized. Anybody else? What happened? When did anybody get a story started? Why the hell is he doing that? That's obnoxious. Anybody got that going? And then what happened when you finally said, oh, I got a story going? Then what happened? Did you keep the story going the whole time? What happened when you got a break from the story? Correct. There's actually, I don't know if it's going back because it's always there. You went away for a moment. Yes, I understand that. But you now see that something from the outside can come in. You can't control this world, can you? God knows we've tried. Yes? But something from the outside comes in and you go whack. Correct? Usually the first thing that happens is memory is triggered. Right? Harmonium, paper, you probably had some names for all the noises, right? So memory is triggered, but then what happened? If we don't live our life that way, then it just goes back into the momentum of the ordinary and the familiar, correct? Assessment, analysis, judgment, pissy, gripey, grumpies, self-created suffering. Ambika.
I had a new thing happen this time, which we just did a weekend. 6 yoga nidras. And when a noise would come, the yoga nidra thing which says if anything on the outside comes in, let it take you deeper. And there was a quality about it that would just kind of take me deeper.
And what happened here?
Well, when I would hear the crackling, I'd start to go out, but then it would just kind of wash over.
That's exactly what we want for you to be recognizable to you. That something from the outside comes in, or even something from the inside comes up, and you start to go out. That's part of the impossible looking possible. Let's just take a little break here for a moment. I know that right now it looks like I'm over here and you're over there, correct? That's not a trick question. You're at home and I'm over here. I'm in the computer, right? That's what it is. That's what it looks like, isn't it? This is not a trick. Yep. All right? But you also know somewhere in there you've gotten the information that there's light coming off of these sources, bouncing off of this surface and going into your eyeballs, correct? And you know that your eyeballs don't see. They're just data collectors, right? Your eyeballs aren't seeing me. So something is going into the back onto the retina. It's upside down. It goes into the optic nerve. It goes back into the brain. And somewhere inside of your head, there's a screen of consciousness that has a guy in black that's flapping his arms and going on and on and on. So where am I really? Am I out here or I am in there? Answer that question. Where am I really? How can it be both? The only thing you can verify is it's in there. No, direct perception. Because a moment ago, there was no me at all. There was no you. That's still a foundation. That's not something that was just left over there as a separate thing. We're building on that. So when Gurdjieff says everything in your life is really a reflection of you, it's all inside. We immediately, like Ambika, her arms went out. She said, I want to go out. And Gurdjieff says that's the mistake because everything is in. Correct? And your unlimited awareness, when you look out at the stars, that looks like a long way out there, doesn't it? But where are those stars really? They're in your consciousness. So now you know what it feels like to have something come up in consciousness and you want to reach out. Correct? That's the first step into self-created suffering. Because Gurdjieff constantly talks about, in a very vivid sort of way, we look at somebody else to fulfill our needs, our wants, our hopes, our dreams, our desires. And where are they really? Thank you. All right, everybody okay with that? So now you can see that this is doable. And the reason that I pointed this out, because we have toaster, right? We have car, right? Integrative intention. You now know for a fact what integrative intention is. It's staying anchored in no thoughts, no things, no ways, no body, no gender, no edges, no you. Integration doesn't mean that there are separate little distinct little parts, like we're a kind of union. We're all on the A train and we're going uptown, we're going to catch some music, and it's tight and we're all bouncing. That's not the kind of integration union thing, the whole, black, white, brown, yellow, pink, that's not integration. If we had a pile of ice cubes here, we would have a pile of individual, separate, distinct from everything, other ice cubes, correct? In the right conditions, when all those ice cubes melt, what do we have? You have no distinctions. Integration means no distinctions. And just for a side, you happen to be about 76% water. And all our bickering is about, 15% of mineral content? And some silly belief systems. And just so you don't think those things are real, I usually ask people, where are you from? Where are you from, Sita? Where are you from? Maryland. And Sue? Maryland. Ooh, Maryland. Denver. You know where you're really from? 2 microscopic bits of DNA material from people you didn't know. So all the things that you've collected up, whether it be religion, politics, economics, nationality, ethnicity, is something that's just fabricated. You just accumulated it. It's not who you really are. That's why we're killing each other over stuff of 15% mineral content. And you can feel it when you think you're right, don't you? And somebody else is like cranked you over. Don't you think your 15% is really in play, right? But now you know from your own direct experience that doesn't have to be the case. Now Gurdjieff has said, and he gives here's the guarantee part or the loophole. The first reaction is free because you can't control what comes in, can you? And most of the time you can't control what comes up from inside, correct? So the first reaction is free. If you use it to be free. That means you have to go back to toaster, car, integrative intent. You have to go back to that which you know yourself to be. Otherwise, you're just on a roll. Right? A vritti. So now you know in the morning that your sadhana is for putting an end to obstacles. and that your experience is meant to modify this incorrect knowledge that you have about yourself. Flexibility ain't going to get you anywhere. Pranayama can be a help, but it's only a help in creating a stillness where you can remove obstacles. You're not going to make yourself into something that you're already not. That's a huge statement. Because we believe that most everything we do is somehow related to becoming something that we're not. You go to school, you go to college, you get married, to be something that you're not. And we can see from and sometimes it's just a matter of age. You can't say this to 15-year-olds because their whole thing is going out. But when you've been around the block enough times, you understand that strategy has not delivered the goods. And when you know that part of that is not a part, when you understand when you know the substructure in which your life is manifesting, cresting, has been going through, when you know that substructure, it changes the way not only you view yourself, but the way you view the world, because you know now you're not separate from it. It's all in here. As long as we continue, and I'm not trying to say that the body-mind apparatus is not apparent, we continually have to look out through the eyes, use our hands, mouth, and other parts of our body to give care, to nurture, to sustain the body-mind unit. But you are something greater than the body-mind unit, and we usually think that we have to refine the body-mind unit to be something more than what we are. But the body-mind unit can't grasp that which is beyond the body-mind unit. So as long as we look through the body-mind unit, it will look like I'm over here and you're over there. But when we look through the field of consciousness, we understand something very different. And this is not necessarily esoteric or difficult. This is something that you already do. Vita and I go to Art Basel in Miami, and there's 12 lanes of traffic, 6 in each direction. And someone told me there's 120 different languages spoken in Miami, and everyone drives according to the rules of the road in their country of origin. So there's some stuff going on the highway at life and death speeds. I mean, people will suck the paint off your door. So you're out there in your lane, and you're doing the best. You're out there with the cars, right, and the trucks, and people zipping in. You're doing the best you can. I'm in my lane, and I'm avoiding hitting any cars and trucks, correct? I'm focused on hitting cars and trucks. And then somebody in this lane does something a little crazy, and I go, oh my God. And I'm one of those people, think, maybe like you, it's better to have them behind you than in front of you, and you speed up to go by them. Don't you always look over into that car and see what kind of ass is driving it? So you know that there's a consciousness in that car. It's not just cars out there driving by themselves. So when you live life in your car, know the consciousness in the car. And then drive wherever you want. But right now, we got a driverless car. It's just, wherever, just one place to another. So now you know for a fact 2 things. And one of them is not necessarily a thing. You've had direct perception of consciousness that you are. No thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no edges, no you. It has no size, no shape, no color, no density, no mass, and no location. But yet it's recognizable. And you also now know for a fact that you can anchor in that. You can reset in that when you're disturbed. And I don't care if you've been disturbed by something for 30 years. The moment you catch yourself, that's the first reaction. And the first reaction is free if you use it to be free. You don't start going, oh, I'm such a adult, it took me 30 years to get, drop right onto the foundation, the substructure that you realized about yourself. This gives you the opening to live your life as a divine expression. You've had all the experiences. You didn't, 2 microscopic bits of DNA material from people you didn't know. What did you do to choose your parents? What did you do to meet them? Nothing that you know about, right? This whole existence knew you were coming. That's why there was milk in your mother's breast and food grows out of the ground. You've been carried this whole way so that you see this about yourself. You are a divine expression. And perhaps this divinity, this existence has been using you to set certain things in motion where you've pissed people off, whether you've gotten roughed up. But all that you can recognize is that it has brought you to this moment of seeing something profoundly unique. So unique, you've wanted an experience that's so huge that you could never, ever, 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 ever unknow it. Try to unknow what you now know about yourself. You can't do it. You may not pay attention to it. You may go habitual. You may go back into the obstacles, but you'll never, ever be able to unknow that about yourself. And you'll never be able to unknow about yourself when you get in the jackpot and you say, what am I going to do? I can't say, I'm just, and if you want to change your physical, mental, emotional, contemplative state, what do you change? And you go where? Okay? So I'm not trying to deny anything. It's simply to shift, and this is Mickey Singer, that rather than leaning into what you're looking at, lean back into where you're looking from. And most of what we have been familiar with is becoming not only leaning into, but entangled, choked, damn, suicidal about something that's temporary and losing fact that there's constant substructure to those things that are doing this. Well, what we're saying is that we can see thoughts pass, come and go, no problem. We're not trying to, have a vacant mind. You have to get things done. We're engaged in the car is driving appropriately in its lane, but we are anchored in the driver's seat, not in the car. That analogy may not really work, but you get what I'm trying to say. So integrative intention is no longer a concept. For any concept or idea to have any value, it has to have an action plan. Correct? I mean, if a fire broke out in here and we didn't know what to do, I was in the trade center before they came down with the towers, and the first cat had tried to blow up in the basement. And I'm up around the 16th, 18th floor. I'm in the shower, and I have nothing. I'm wet, and the fire alarm goes off, and I'm thinking, Vita, what up? And I'm looking at the fire, the exit plan. Okay, the exit plan, because if there was no, if it doesn't have a direct action, something to do with it, then I'm just running around in the building trying to get out, right? So every concept has to have an action plan. And the action plan for integrative intention now is very clear to you. It means remaining anchored in that consciousness no matter what. All right. Let's, we'll chant the sound of Ohm together. Sometimes folks say that in the beginning you chant Om so that your ears, your psyche is open, so new stuff can go in, and that you chant Om at the end so that what went in. And I'm not saying that casually, because in the beginning I asked if you felt yourself still in the predicament. And most of you said yes. When we took that first step in consciousness, thoughts of things, and ways of body, regeneration, where was your predicament? You have to now engage. There's actually, and I'll put it up tomorrow. It's actually, the old timers had a formula. First of all, you hear about it. Then you got to get in there and root out the incorrect knowledge with this correct knowledge, so much so that you never ever leave it. Does that make sense? All right. Let's sit up together once again without being overly concerned with your position. Softening the breath. And gently bring your hands into prayer position in front of your heart. And use this gesture to begin to allow a felt sense of reverence to well up within you for what you have seen about yourself. Nurture this direct perception. Just the sound of Thank you, dear friends, for this opportunity to give what I have received. You truly are myself. Again and again. Jai Bhagwan. And for any of you who are watching at home, thank you so much for staying with us. We hope to see you here. Jai Bhagwan.